right, this is going to be a little bit of a different type of video. The title is, What's Your Table Tennis Philosophy? If you look at a lot of table tennis stuff online, you will frequently come across things referring to Chinese style, Chinese philosophy of table tennis. And usually it's limited to that. I don't see stuff about, for instance, Brazilian table tennis philosophy. You might find a little bit about a European approach, which has traditionally been different than the Chinese approach. Japanese have a slightly different approach, I would think. But it really comes down to what is your philosophy for table tennis? What are you trying to do? Not just how are you hoping to improve. I think that's part of it. But where does table tennis fit into your life? Are you hoping to be the best player in your state? Are you hoping to be a professional table tennis player? Are you hoping to just beat people at your club? Whatever, those are all goals, but they don't really fully take in what your philosophy of table tennis is. Let's just say that you would like to make table tennis an important part of your life. It's something you enjoy. It's recreational. It's good for you. All those things are part of what we get out of table tennis. But if you're looking to continue playing and continuing to improve, you probably actually need to have a personal philosophy of table tennis. Most of us don't come up with our philosophies on life out of thin air. We're mostly looking at what other people have done, what works for them, borrowing. Maybe you're all in on the Chinese philosophy of table tennis. I certainly borrow heavily from that in my training. Certain things that I come across that make sense, that are proven to work for me and have proven to work for the people I coach. Nothing wrong with borrowing somebody else's philosophy. You may have philosophies of other philosophers, religious figures, important people in your life, people that have shaped your life, and maybe even some role models in table tennis. What I look at is, how is table tennis making my life better? Is it? I've actually gotten an awful lot out of the sport. It's kept me busy, maybe kept me out of trouble, maybe helped me to help some other people find their way through the table tennis jungle. It's allowed me to have an income from coaching, which is not a small thing. When I retired from my past career, I definitely needed something to do other than sit around or just wait for the next time I could go play table tennis, and coaching has been a big part of that. But if you're really wanting to be real introspective about this and figure out what's your table tennis philosophy, you may have to really think about it. Maybe it's a question you don't care to really think about. Maybe you're not philosophical by nature. I sort of am. So when I look at table tennis, I'm thinking, this is a fantastic activity in that you're moving, you're thinking, you're interacting with other people. Your emotions can go from very, very high to very, very low and back again. There's an opportunity to continue to improve. And while it might not be the perfect sport for overall fitness, it's a good one. It's a good one in a lot of ways. I would suggest that if you're serious about taking care of yourself, the table tennis could be part of that. I combine table tennis with some running and some other exercises, and I would call those other things complementary, and that table tennis is probably my main sport, my main activity in many ways. I think many people who know me only know me as a table tennis player, but you got to figure out where the sport fits into your life. So the fact that I'm doing a video means that it's become a pretty big part of my life, and I tend to think about what I'm getting out of it, where I want to go with it, and to me, the fact that it continues to be a positive, or more positive than negative, thing in my life means that I'm going to continue doing it. And I don't know how many more years I'll continue to do it, but for the foreseeable future, I'll be coaching, I'll be playing, I'll be trying to improve. It's something that I want to think about as an activity that's not just something I do occasionally, a chance to play, but something that is pretty much a daily part of my life. This kind of brings me to something where I'm borrowing from other people's philosophies. Maybe you're coming across this in your life too, where people talk about not just setting goals, but setting up a system. My goal has been to be a 2000 level USATT player. Haven't made it yet. In fact, I'm kind of sliding back the other direction at this point, but I made it as high as 1855. It was in striking distance, and perhaps had I played more tournaments, had a few other things go my way, I might have reached that goal. But whether I reach that goal or not, it's a better idea, rather than to set that up as a goal that I want to reach a certain rating or win a certain tournament, better to set up a system where I am guaranteed to continue to get the best out of the sport. System for me is I'm coaching. I know that at least 5 or 6 days a week, I'm going to have people showing up. They're wanting to learn. I'm going to have to be their training partner, their coach, their advisor, and that will guarantee that at the very least I'm going to have the racket in my hand. Now, the person that's coming in the door might be a beginner, they might be a better player than me, they might be somebody that's struggling with their game, but either way, at least on my side, I'm going to have the racket in my hand. I'm going to have to think about the game. I'm going to have to get very steady at blocking, chopping, feeding multi-ball, serving, returning serves, and be able to explain all those things. So mentally, I've got some idea what I'm doing, not just for coaching, but how that's going to affect my own game. And having a system like that is how I've had most of my success in sports. That obviously, when I was younger, I probably wasn't thinking a whole lot about my philosophy of sports, but it became something where if I was participating in a certain sport, it was just a given that I was probably going to play that every day. What is it? How do you spend your leisure time? Well, you go out and do whatever that sport is because you enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying table tennis, I would recommend you find a different sport, because it probably isn't for everybody, but it is a fantastic sport in a lot of ways. It's going to demand a lot of hand-eye coordination, a lot of control of your emotions. It's going to make you have to use strategy. And for all of us, there's a limit to how good we possibly can be. I mean, if you're starting out right now and you're a beginner and your goal is to be world champion, that's probably not a good goal to start out with. I would say goal setting should be more about what you have some control over, what kind of system you can set up to be the best player that you can be, and commit to it as much as you feel that will be beneficial and will fit into your life. I've personally found that not just in table tennis, but in other sports where players put tremendous amount of time into their sport, and sometimes don't have as good a results as other players who have put far less time. So my point being, it may be far more about the quality of your training and not quite as much about the quantity. And for me, I feel like I do have a philosophy of table tennis, but it's not just about table tennis. It's what's my philosophy of life, and table tennis fits into that. So it's not all about just the sport of table tennis. I certainly have things that would be in that category of table tennis philosophy, but it's more important to know how I want to approach life and how table tennis fits into that. For the most part, I do have a little bit different coaching philosophy than some coaches. I emphasize feel of the ball, control. So often seeing players with good shots who can't control the ball, and I'm willing to sacrifice some things on the top end of being a top player to help players enjoy the sport more as they work their way towards being a better player. And that plays out in some different ways. But anyway, there's lots to think about. My point of this video is really for you to think about not just what your philosophy of table tennis is, but perhaps what your philosophy of life is and how table tennis actually fits into that. So I doubt if you'll see this type of video from anybody else, but I figure I'm gonna have some fun, talk about the things I like to talk about. Hopefully this is helpful in some way to somebody out there, and welcome your comments. Thank you very much.